bring the cars into the pits. The 500-mile race is complete. The checkered flag and the red flag are waved together. And the checkered flag was displayed first here for A.J. Foyt. He is now on the pit lane. The people are moving out to his car as he comes down through the pits. A very elated crew has begun to run toward victory lane to meet A.J. and to meet Lou Palmer. A.J. cruises through the pit area very, very slowly toward the new victory lane in the front of the master control tower here. Ever so slow he comes down. But A.J. Foyt no longer has need for the speed of that V8 Coyote engine. He is the winner here at Indianapolis. And now to interview the winner of this year's Indianapolis 500 here in Victory Lane is Lou Palmer.
And we await A.J. Foyt along with a host of others, including Tony Holman, who was cheering as loudly as the crowd. We've seen what has never been seen before, beginning with a woman driving in the field in the morning and A.J. finishing 4 up front at Indianapolis. Headed into victory lane now, A.J. Foyt in the gleaming Gilmore 14 Coyote, the Gilmore Racing Team home, and he wins again.
It's race day, 1980. The place is the world's greatest race course, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This is the 64th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. At this moment, hundreds of thousands of spectators file into this giant and ancient speedway. As the sun began to light the eastern sky early this Indiana morning, aerial bombs shattered the stillness of the dawn and signaled the opening of the gates. For over 5 hours now, the crowd has poured through those gates. Before the green flag falls, in just over 40 minutes, the crowd is expected to swell to well over 300,000. Each year, these fans make their pilgrimage to the center of Indiana. They come from around the world. They are joined in heritage only gained by almost 7 decades of history. Many of these fans wear the bright colors reflected by the cars driven by their favorites. The grandstands, stretching for miles, are a kaleidoscope of bright color. Their spirits are high. They're here to open a new decade of racing at Indianapolis. This day is bright and blue. The temperature is 74 degrees. The forecast is for clear and sunny weather. Seconds ago, you joined race fans around the world. At this moment, the sounds of Indianapolis beam out from transmitters across the United States. Shortwave transmitters and satellites fling our words across the oceans and around the globe. You join us in a singular experience. The world's largest radio network combines you, the race fan from afar, with those gathered here at the Speedway. I'm Paul Page, and I'm proud to serve you once again as the voice of the 500.
Less than half a lap ago, Gordy Johncock by 5 car lengths over Rick Mears. They're in the north short chute. Here they come. This is the final quarter lap. Johncock maintains the lead. The voice of the 500, Paul Page. Who's going to win?
Gordon Johncock off the 4th turn. Mears is right behind him. Johncock, Mears makes a try. Johncock wins it by less than 1/10 of a second. Gordon Johncock has won his second 500. Rick Mears comes across in second place, almost side by side. And you should see the celebration that is taking place in the Patrick Racing pits. An incredible celebration now as they run down toward victory lane. What a finish.
Let's see what happens with the 68.
I think he's going to climb
the fence. He is out of the car, and Helio Castroneves climbs the fence in the front straight.
IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network. From the Firestone broadcast booth in Long Beach, this is the Verizon IndyCar Series.
Verizon IndyCar Series for breakfast, lunch, maybe even dinner, wherever you might be joining us from. We are in Long Beach, California. Final preparations for the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach. The final warm-up session, as we said, before we go racing a little bit later on this afternoon. I'm Mark James, happy to be joined in the broadcast booth by Zach Veach. For this session, the whole gang has been assembled to bring you this action this morning. We'll have Jake Query, Nick Yeoman out on the course, and Rob Howden will be joining us on pit road. So Zach Veach with the dust settled. Next verse, same as the first. Team Penske, Team Ganassi, dominant in qualifying here yesterday.
I think we're going to see a strong showing from those guys. You know, we're still seeing some of the Honda teams, you know, working extremely hard to catch up with the Chevys. I mean, we see the highest Honda was 7th with James Hinchcliffe. I know, speaking with him earlier throughout the weekend, he was really happy with his race car, and he thought, you know, he's going to have a stronger car once we get on these long race runs. But this warm-up is going to be a good chance to get everything dialed in and, you know, make sure they're in working conditions for the race.
Fingers crossed this is a successful test before we go racing later today. Let's welcome in one of the members of our broadcast crew. Going to be a busy guy today. Gets to see a lot of racetrack from his vantage point in turn one. Hello, Jake Query.
Good morning to you, Mark, and it is wonderful to be here in Long Beach, California. My perch actually is here along the intersection of Pine and Shoreline. As a matter of fact, as you hear the cars go racing past me to my left, they've got about 600 or so yards before they make a left-handed turn that is turn number 1. It looks a little bit wider than it is in actuality, so you got to get on the brakes a little bit, make sure you keep a clean line. Then once you do so, these drivers work their way around the fountain area. This area is known as the Pike in Long Beach. It was once an amusement park. It's now the epicenter of shopping, restaurants, and other such entertainment venues here in Southern California. They work their way around the fountain area, and then back into my view, they come the opposite way in which they would be going into turn number 1. That's because after they take that right-hander that's turn number 5, coming right back below me again, a left-handed turn that is turn number 6. At that point, they go underneath one of the walkways here, the Tecate Bridge, and they do so, they then lose my vantage point. They go just out beneath where I can see. But I'll tell you what, Mark, sensational morning here, weather already fantastic. Little bit of the quick dry that they have at pit exit. There must have been a problem with one of the sports cars yesterday. Kicked up an awful bit cloud of dust when these cars work their way back out onto this track. But going to be a great day of racing here in Long Beach, California.
As we mentioned, another member of our broadcast crew on pit road is Rob Howden. Rob, you've caught up with the most special of guests here at Long Beach this weekend.
Yeah, down here with President Jim McKelly. And Jim, you got to be pleased and thrilled again with another great Long Beach Grand Prix. 41 amazing years. This is number 42. How are your feelings about another beautiful blue sky Chamber of Commerce day here in Long Beach?
Well, it's been a fabulous weekend so far. We've had 2 great days of weather, sunshine, big crowds, lots of excitement. And this last day, this third day, is starting off just like that. And we're expecting to have a large, enthusiastic crowd for the highlight of the weekend, which is obviously the Verizon IndyCar World Series race here.
Obviously a huge crowd last year and even a bigger crowd this year. That's obviously great for the event looking forward.
Well, it is, and you know what? It's also a testament to what IndyCar brings to an event like this. We're delighted with the way the season has gone so far, and we'd like to see a little more balance between Chevy and Honda maybe, but nevertheless, as long as it's exciting and competitive and safe, well, that's what our fans are looking for, and I think they can expect to see that here today.
You probably couldn't get 3 better days of weather here in Southern California, but you just told me that there's never been rain on Sunday. That's a pretty solid option to have coming into an event.
Well, I'll tell you what, 41 years we hadn't had it, and fortunately I can say today that we're not going to have it on the 42nd year either, and hopefully not for a long time to come. That's a record we'd like to keep intact.
Many more years still in the future. What do you got working on for the next coming years?
Well, the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach will continue to here. Next year will be a week earlier than it traditionally is because Easter comes on our 3rd weekend in April. So we're moving 1 weekend before. But we'll we'll have a lot of the same elements that we've had before. Obviously, the Indy cars will be here, sports cars will be here. Robbie Gordon's flying trucks through the air, which is always a fascinating kind of an experience for everybody, will be back. And we'll look for other things to complement what the fans usually expect here when they come to Long Beach.
Hey, thanks for everything you do. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Ron. See you.
Mark, there you go.
That's Jim McKellion, president of the Grand Prix Association of Long Beach. Appreciate him on a very busy day taking the time to catch up with our Rob Howden on pit road. Again, one of the best of the business. Got two of the best of the business on the course. You've heard from one of them already. The other is high atop the signature portion of this race course. We say good morning. Turn 11, Nick Yeoman.
There are quite a few signature spots around this course, Mark. That fountain shot is always so prevalent in highlight vids, but maybe one of the most important corners is right here. The final one, 180-degree right-hand hairpin turn number 11. You talk to any of these drivers and they say that this is the most important corner. If you get a nice drive off of turn number 11, it sets you up to pick up through the RPMs and gain a lot of speed down the front straightaway. Great opportunity, as we've seen many of these drivers work their way around this racetrack, lay a little rubber down. Tony Kanaan's going to test the curbing as he comes through turn number 11. Mark, this is a spectacular view up here with the beach to my left, the racetrack right in front of me. We're going to keep our fingers crossed. Inevitably, this area ends up looking like a parking lot at least once or twice throughout the course of the day. We haven't seen it so far. We'll keep our fingers crossed. Marco Andretti, Graham Rahal. Here comes Scott Dixon exiting turn number 11. Mark, it is busy down here. Looking forward to dropping the green flag later today for the 42nd Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach.
From a team and driver perspective, Zach, what is the checklist you think for this final warm-up session?
Definitely just evaluating any changes you made overnight from qualifying, especially if you wanted to try a low downforce setup for the race so you have that long run on the start, so it gives you a little bit of an advantage in a straight line. You want to see how the car is going to handle with that. If you change gears, you want to make sure the gearing's right. And then for guys that haven't had a lot of experience in traffic, we're getting a replay of Lotion, throwing to the inside of Ryan Hunter-Reay and making the pass through. That's what you want to work on as well. You want to get a feel for how your car is in traffic, because once we get race time, you're going to be spending a lot of time in dirty air.
Back to Rob Howden.
Yeah, guys, this session obviously very, very different in terms of what they're trying to get from it, depending on where you qualified yesterday. If you're in the top 10, car's a little better, you're going to make minor changes. Further to the tail of the field, like Graham Rahal and Marco Andretti, they're making big changes. I talked to Graham. He said they made changes both front and rear, but really they thought that maybe what the big issue was yesterday, him sliding all over the place, was they really just misjudged the downforce that they were going to need for the session. They've made some adjustments there, and Graham feels he's going to be able to work his way forward. He definitely knows it's going to be a strategy race, so I expect them to start on maybe blacks and come in early. I talked to Marco Andretti as well. Obviously a very rough day for him yesterday. I said, big changes, and he looked at me straightforward and said, wholesale. A lot of changes for Andretti. Let's see if anything works for him and possibly sticks here in warm-up.
Jake Query, your vantage point, turn 1, turn 6, and a little bit in between, quite a bit of the main straightaway, in fact. You're not going to have to work too hard to create that theater of the mind because of all the gnat sound, if you will, that you have. I get the feeling from the noise level that we hear, you can almost look right down into the cockpit as they fly by you.
No question about it. As a matter of fact, it's one of the best vantage points on the circuit for exactly that, Mark. And I love being able to look down, especially when they take that left-hander that is turn number 6. I can see just how hard they're fighting the wheel. Now, one of the interesting things is they make that left-handed turn onto Pine Avenue here in Long Beach that we forget about is the fact that streets have a natural crowning in them to keep that water runoff. Of course, not a lot of rain that you get in Southern California, but nonetheless, you can see the imbalance it creates on the race car. And if you get that turn just a little bit too far, the car naturally wants to pull itself to the right while you're making that left-handed turn. And I can look right down in there and see when somebody does so, how the car is battling them. I'm watching Tony Kanaan just went through. Now just behind him, Joseph Newgarden does the same. Really a good vantage point to see the real actual battle between man and machine that takes place over the course of 2 hours.
Nick Yeoman, yours, I think, your vantage point presents the biggest challenge, and it's the most valuable piece of real estate. Coming through 9, 10, and 11 cleanly, is so very, very important in order to be able to achieve top speed before you get to Jay Query in turn 1.
It is, Mark, and I think the thing I enjoy so much about being up here is watching the drivers in the cockpit working those hands. It's a sweeping left-hand corner in turn number 10 where you want to be very agile and very delicate with the steering wheel, but then once those drivers are hard on the brakes, you see that left hand come over top of the steering wheel as they saw it all the way back to the right and then straighten it when it's hard on the gas. We've seen drivers throughout the course of the weekend, and we're going to see it all day today, bouncing those cars, sliding them out of turn number 11, because when they jump on the accelerator, those Honda and Chevrolet engines come alive. So it is a very technical portion of the racetrack, and I just love watching those drivers saw on that steering wheel left and back to the right here in 10 and 11.
Jake, we're going to attempt here to pick one up and try to follow them around off of that main straightaway complex. We get them just off of that King Taco Bridge. We see Juan Montoya making the left-hand turn. There's a car coming your way now, just shy of turn 1.
Hunter Ray just went into turn number 1. Meanwhile, on my right-hand side, working their way in through turn 6, we see Charlie Kimball. Max Chilton has James Hinchcliffe just behind him. We await, and now Juan Montoya comes. Takes that left-hander in turn through turn number 5. That is Montoya in car number 2. A trio of cars now working behind him. Munoz just behind him, Mikel Aloshin, and then Ryan Hunter-Ray under the Tecate Bridge.
They're off of turn number 6 now. They're setting up for a left-hander, which is turn number 7. Hinch and company run just in front of them. Ryan Hunter-Ray down that long back straightaway, Seaside Way, off of Pine Avenue. He'll climb on the binders. He is the caboose in that train. Munoz clears 9 and heads for 10.
And as they make their way out of turn number 10, Ryan Hunter-Ray comes into my view. He's trailing the Schmidt-Peterson car of Mikel Aloshin off of turn number 11. Hunter-Ray will duck onto pit lane, about 10 car lengths behind Mark. Connor Daly and Will Power will flash out of turn number 11.
Joseph Newgarden is P1, Elio Montoya, Bourdais, Hunter-Ray, Daly, Aloshin, Rahal, Munoz, Hawksworth, your top 10 from the Firestone broadcast booth. This is the Advanced Auto Parts IndyCar Radio Network.
On Earth aren't going to push the limits of man and machine riding on just any old piece of rubber. Which is why Firestone is the tire of the Verizon IndyCar Series. So when it's time to celebrate the 100th running of the Indy 500, no one knows more about celebrating than the tire that has more Indy wins than anyone else. Because at Firestone, we don't just make tires. We make champions. Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone.
Back on the streets of Long Beach, about halfway through this final warm-up period as we watch them continue to go through paces. Zach, anything interesting about lines that you see? We see a lot of guys running in tandem and not necessarily teammates.
Yeah, no, what I've been watching is, on the monitor here is the battle between Max Chilton leading James Hinchcliffe. You can kind of see, we have a Chevy and a Honda battling it out, and really I kind of believe that Max has just a little bit less downforce than Hinch, because James is always able to catch him in the tight portion of the circuit that we have here. But as soon as he gets onto that straightaway out of turn 11 and down to turn 1, Max always pulls that gap out. So it's kind of giving me an insight of maybe, what their strategy is for the race, and that's trimming it out and hoping you can stay up front as they work their way around Graham Rahal now.
Simon Pagino among those working their way toward the fountain. Jake, another couple of cars, well, at least one headed your way into turn number 1.
Yeah, interesting. Just a couple of minutes ago, Graham Rahal went through here and did so kind of limping around. I don't know if maybe he was just trying to create space for himself. Didn't look like there was a problem with that 15 machine. No problems now as we watch heading along Simon Pagino, Will Power. Pagino actually just let Alexander Rossi go by. So we're at that point where perhaps guys are wanting to get themselves a little bit of clean track. Kanaan, and then behind him, Joseph Newgarden working their way here through turn number 5.
Reports of the 15 being slow. That's Graham Rahal trying to work his way off the course and out of harm's way, and you certainly don't want to have problems in the race, but if you're going to have problems on race day, I guess it's best, Zach, to get them out of the way early.
No, definitely, because you can get them fixed before the race and you're not losing too much. But we got to remember Graham Rahal, he had that pretty big contact with the wall in the second practice session, and that was impact to the left front and left rear, so that car was back apart and put back together overnight. And So hopefully, everything's good there, but maybe it could be something as little as a small electrical issue, and that's why he's slowing down and working his way back to pit lane. As we see James Hinchcliffe, he went into the runoff in turn 8, gets it spun back around, and he's on his way down the straightaway now.
Pagano with a pass of Alexander Rossi headed toward turn 1, working their way around the fountain area. Now just like that, they're through turn 6 and already setting up for turn number 7. Carlos Munoz, Mikel Aloshin continue around the course. The 9 of Scott Dixon in front of Jake Query.
Scott Dixon, Brian Hunter-Ray just worked his way, by the way, onto the track. Castro Neves through turn number 6. Now I wait, and it's Sato who comes behind him. Everybody now absolutely clear through turn number 1 and 6, but they've been working their way around that fountain area, or turn 5, I should say. Dixon makes that righty that it's turn number 5. Now Scott Dixon, low side of the racetrack, as he works his way through turn number 6 with Charlie Kimball just behind.
Yep, Charlie Kimball trying to stay in the tire tracks of his teammate as they work their way now off of Pine onto Seaside Way down that long back straightaway to Pit Road and Rob Howden.
Yeah, guys, off the top of the weekend, AJ Foyt Racing looked really solid. Both Jack Hawksworth and Takuma Sato were up front. They were in the top 5. They were in the top 10. I talked to Jack today after qualifying in the very tail of the field. He said they've made wholesale changes as well. Essentially gone back to where they started the weekend. They got themselves working and trying to get that car ready, but it just didn't provide the setup that they wanted. So back to square one for Jack Hawksworth. He's came into pit lane. They made a minor adjustment on the front wing, actually took a little wing out of the front, and he's back in here again right now. Hawksworth still trying to find the balance on that number 41.
Sato is P1. We are halfway through the session. The 83 machine of Charlie Kimball along Seaside Way. A couple of cars working their way down that long back straightaway behind him, among those the 22 of Simon Pagano. We see off of Pine Avenue now, one of the ABC supply machines works his way towards turn number 9. It's a short straightaway for Takuma Sato into the view of Nick Yeoman.
And Takuma Sato will race underneath that Firestone Bridge and slide that car through turn number 11. Graham Rahal, whatever the issues were, they apparently have gotten that fixed. Sato and Rahal down the front straightaway.
Dixon and Kimball coming just behind them, Nick.
Yeah, here comes Scott Dixon. That car bobbles a bit through turn number 10. Charlie Kimball about 8 to 10 car lengths back. They exit turn number 11. Dixon will duck onto pit lane. Kimball will stay out of the racetrack.
Sato just went by you, Jake Query. Spacing pretty good for those drivers negotiating 1 through 6.
Yeah, you get the feeling now everybody kind of wants themselves some clean track. Charlie Kimball just came by and worked his way in through turn number 1. The aforementioned Takuma Sato working his way off turn number 5. Castro Neves just went in through turn number 6. Now to my right, there goes Takuma Sato. Behind him is Graham Rahal.
Mikel Aloshin heads to pit road after turning fast lap, and Zach with a time of 1:07.875. Mikel Aloshin continues to put together a quietly efficient season.
He's definitely putting it together very well. We're only a few races into the season, and as I'm looking through the timing charts, we have 4 Hondas in the top 6, and P6 right now is that of Marco Andretti after having a rough qualifying session, telling Rob that they've made wholesale changes to the car. I think they made a step in the right direction as he sets 6th right now, Mark.
We see Joseph Newgarden in the 21 and the 19 of Luca Filippi working their way into turn number 9. Joseph Newgarden is going to get there first. Is that the car of Newgarden? It's a little hard to pick out. It's Sebastian Bourdais, Nick Yeoman.
Yeah, it's got a white top to it, and it's got some gold trim, Mark. That is an easy mistake to make because those cars very similar. Bourdais races out of turn number 11. Jake Query underneath the Toyota bridge. He'll make that bend across the start-finish line. Sebastian Bourdais and that blue and white car headed to you.
Sebastian Bourdais walking in this morning, talking to one of his teammates, one of the guys on his team, saying, now what exactly was I doing wrong yesterday? Hard to believe that Sebastian Bourdais would be doing anything wrong. This guy has been as good as anybody, especially when it comes to road and street course racing over the course of his career. Sebastian Bourdais, of course, the Frenchman, and a guy who is a former series champion many times over, works his way now, just took that left-handed turn onto Pine Avenue under the Tecate Bridge. Just Sebastian Bourdais. Just behind him, by the way, Marco Andretti had to slow down hard through that left-handed turn number 6. That allowed Juan Montoya down to the bottom side.
Full field for you. Aloshin, Sato, Hunter-Ray, Canan, Castro Neves, Andretti, Newgarden, Dixon, Pagano, and Montoya. Then Chilton, Kimball, After Charlie Kimball, Rossi, Rahal, Bourdais, Daly, Munoz, Power, Hawksworth, Luca Filippi, and James Hinchcliffe. Zach, we're seeing yet another brake fire, the one we saw 2 days ago with Charlie Kimball, this one on the 19.
Yeah, no, as we see, it looks like the left rear brake rotor has got on fire. You know, these guys, you're on the brakes so hard because you're carrying so much speed around here that they have to put coolers on the brakes as soon as they get to the pit box. If they don't, you know, you got the fibers from the carbon that's laying there. It can get hot enough that it ignites. Maybe Rob can get a little more info on that as, you know, they figure it out, but hopefully that's nothing that's going to end the session here.
How many times will they swap out rotors in the course of a weekend?
I mean, for these guys, I'm assuming, you know, it's multiple through the weekend, because even in Indy Lights with us, we don't have carbon. We have, you know, still steel rotors, but we put a new set of rotors on for start of qualifying and now carry us through the race weekend.
What's that, about $69.95 per axle?
Yeah, I wish, you know, just a couple easy payments of that.
Pull them in there and take care of that. Ryan Hunter-Ray with a time of 07.7734. Rob Howden.
Yeah, I'm heading down right now to Luca Filippi's pit to have a look at what's going on there, but I was just in the pit area of Ryan Hunter-Ray, and Zach, I'll tell you, these guys are going to use this session to full effect. They actually have new shocks with the springs set out, new dampers for that car. They're going to try something new here near the end of the session. They're already ready to set them out, but again, new dampers and springs for the car of Ryan Hunter-Ray. They're going to put those in next time he comes in the pit lane.
And to be making a change like that, you know, Ryan Hunter-Ray sets P1 right now, you know, with about a comfortable 10th gap over Aloshin in P2. So, you know, they're just searching right now. I think he's pretty happy with the car, but, you know, use this warm-up as a test session because maybe you can find something to go even quicker here for the race.
Couple of cars coming down Seaside Way. It's one of the ABC supply machines. We also see the number 22 of Simon Pagano. Just off of turn number 9, the 15 machine of Graham Rahal.
Yeah, here comes Graham Rahal. That is a sharp-looking car. Red, black, and silver. Pengrade, the sponsorship. Of course, they're going to be involved heavily with the Indianapolis 500 this year, Jake Query. Graham Rahal out of turn number 11, streaking down the front straightaway behind Simon Pagano.
Rahal finally trying to get his giddy up, if you will. As a matter of fact, he sweeps it now wide to the right, takes that left-hander. That is turn number 1. Watching Graham Rahal work his way around the fountain area here in Long Beach. And as he does so, you can see those hands really starting to bend towards the right-hand side. Battling that wheel is Graham Rahal. Takes that right-handed turn number 5, sweeps that 15-car machine to the outside, sets himself up now, bobbles just a bit, gets to the bottom of the racetrack in turn number 6.
Graham Rahal, that number 15 machine, and again, Pengrade, all the sponsorship on that car. Theodore Racing added to the mix. He makes that right-hander onto Seaside Way. It's a long haul, and this is a passing zone. Climbs on the binder, steers it to the right, heads toward turn 10.
Yeah, of course, Graham Rahal, 2 wins a year ago, trying to get this season pointed to the right direction. Ahead of them, though, Mark, Takuma Sato, Simon Pagano closing up. That's about a 5 or 6 car length distance between those two.
Jake, pick that one up. Sato and Pagano.
Sato, of course, a guy who has won here before, works his way just now under the King Taco Bridge, then behind him, Simon Pagano. Sato went to the inside in turn number 1. Pagano stuck to the outside, so it is Sato that will lead around essentially that one lane of the fountain area here at Long Beach before setting up for that right-hander. That is turn number 5. When they take that right-hander that's turn 5, there's a design here, a sculpture that almost looks like a roller coaster. Takuma Sato goes under it just now. Pagano now really closing in right on the heels of that 14 machine through 6.
Running into the tire tracks as they climb on the binder, set up for turn number 7. Now they'll make that dive into turn number 8, that long haul down Seaside Way. Sato will get to turn 9 first. He'll climb on the binders from the high side, get to the bottom of the racetrack. Takuma Sato sets up for 10.
Just beautiful race cars as they streak through turn number 10. Graham Rahal's got an interesting spectator. That battle tightens up. Sato with just about a car length advantage. He'll duck onto pit lane. Pagano and Rahal back down the front stretch.
Rahal, Montoya, Dixon, Hunter-Ray, Aloshin, your top 5, Rob Howden.
Yeah, down here in the Luca Filippi pit, had a chance to talk to one of the crew members, and the fire actually is coming from a ring of carbon that's around the outside of the rotor. That's what's actually lighting on fire. They were able to get it extinguished, get the wheel back on, get it all cooled down, and head him back out there. But Zach, that's the issue there. It's that carbon ring around the outside of the rotor.
And that just, like I said before, just shows the amount of heat that's going through, you know, these systems. Because the cars, they don't weigh that much if you think about it in relation to a typical street car, but the amount of speed that you're carrying down the straightaway here at Long Beach and stopping it, into such a tight corner, you see guys pushing the brake zone. Charlie Kimball's getting turned back around and heading back on the racetrack. These guys are getting everything out of each brake zone that we have here, Mark.
Yep, they're giving it a ride for sure. Graham Rahal now towing Simon Pagenaud down that long back straightaway. They set up for turn number 9, and just like that, Nick, they pop into your view into turn 10.
Yeah, Alexander Rossi's going to be the first one. Here comes Graham Rahal and Simon Pagenaud off of turn number 11. Jake Query, I'll let you know, Graham Rahal leaves my view now underneath the Toyota bridge. When can you see him?
Waiting for him now. Graham Rahal is who we anticipate. Graham Rahal, of course, in that 15 machine. Just now coming into my view, Pagenaud just behind him. Rahal starts to slow it through turn number 1. Now works his way around that fountain area. Pagenaud, an interested spectator to see every move of that 15 machine. Once they work their way around the fountain area, they come back into my view and they take the right-hander that is turn number 5. Rahal did just that, and then you see that navy blue and white. That's the 22 of Simon Pagenaud. Rossi through turn number 6. Rahal just behind him. Then 2 Pagenaud and Will Power.
Charlie Kimball running well in front of them, along with the number 9 machine of Scott Dixon. Graham Rahal gets to that long back straightaway last in that group we're talking about. We see Pagenaud running that way now. That group we've been watching off of turn number 9.
Boy, Simon Pagenaud's car, absolutely stunning. It's changed colors just about every week. It's kind of been the rotating sponsorship car for Team Penske. Baby blue and white, PPG, the automotive finish sponsorship on that car this weekend. Simon Pagenaud is going to start 3rd later today, Jake Query, as he streaks down the front stretch here in Long Beach.
To see Graham Rahal, he just went to P1, with the time 3/10 clear of Montoya in P2. I don't really find that a surprise. I mean, I just was watching the videos we were going around here, and he's driving close to perfection. I mean, he looks like he's in the zone because you just see as he's exiting out of the corners, as he's turning in, he's leaving no room at all between the wall. I mean, there's a couple times I've kind of like cringed thinking, oh, wow, he's going to get to it. So I think he's really liking his race car. So I'm kind of putting some money on Graham for later in the race if it continues.
Rahal, Montoya, Dixon, Hunter Ray, McKellar-Loesch the top 5. Sato, Kanaan, Castro Neves, Andretti, and Newgarden the top 10. Jack Hawksworth is P11. Simon Pagenaud, 12th quick. Munoz, Power, Bourdais, Chilton, Kimball, Rossi, Daly, Hinchcliffe, and Luca Filippi. The starting lineup for today's race, by the way, starting in the 21st position will be Marco Andretti. Starting 20th will be Jack Hawksworth. He'll be joined by Max Chilton. That's row number 10. And row number 9, the 7 of McKellar-Loesch to the 15 of Graham Rahal. Row number 8, the 98 of Alex Rossi and the 83 of Charlie Kimball. Row number 7, the 11 of Sebastian Bourdais and the 18 of Connor Daly. Row number 6, the 19 of Luca Filippi, the 28 of Ryan Hunter-Ray. In row number 5, the 26 of Carlos Munoz, Joseph Newgarden, driving car 21. In row 4, Takuma Sato with the 14 machine, James Hinchcliffe in the 5. In row number 3, the 12 of Will Power, the number 2 of Juan Montoya. Row number 2, the 10 of Tony Kanaan, and the 22 of points leader Simon Pagenaud. Your front row, the 9 of Scott Dixon, and your pole sitter, the 3 of Elio Castro Neves. Clean, green session for the most part. A couple of runoff sack, a brake fire, but all in all, pretty uneventful session here with 2 minutes to go.
And that's what all these guys want, the drivers, the team owners, because that's going to allow them just to massage the car a little bit, getting ready for the race this afternoon, Mark.
Rob, how do you feel like the Maytag repairman on pit road? I mean, we've got all takers, I think, here as we get ready to close out this session.
Yeah, they're coming in here in a big way, as you said. But you know what? I think the biggest move here right now, I talked to Graham Rahal before the start of this session. He was obviously very dejected yesterday. I think he's going to be thrilled with the changes they made. I asked if they were going to be significant. He said they were, but he said really what they sat down, looked at the data, and they made some very specific changes to the car. It wasn't just throwing something at it to see if it would work. They have a plan, and if he ends up P1 here, I know that he's going to get out of that race car feeling really good, knowing that he'll be off sequence, off strategy later on today.
He continues P1. Elio, Montoya, Dixon, and Hunter Ray, your top 5. We are watching Simon Pagenaud at the rear of the gaggle of cars. Nick, you've got a parade coming your way off at turn number 10.
Yeah, it's been like that for about the last 2 or 3 laps around this circuit. That rear wing assembly bouncing a little bit for Joseph Newgarden. He's the lead car of a duo of Penske cars, the silver ones of Montoya and Pagenaud. Here comes McKellar-Loesch. He'll make his way through the right-hander at turn number 11, and the rookie Max Chilton will race out of turn number 11 as well. Getting very busy and a little too tight, Mark, as this practice comes to an end.
Newgarden leads that freight train around the fountain, Jake Query. They'll pop back into your view in turn number 6. A couple of Penske cars, Power and Montoya, running behind Joseph Newgarden.
Newgarden made quick work of Power in through turn number 6 last time by. It's one of the passing areas here in Long Beach. If you get a good run, he did exactly that, working their way through 6 now. It's Power, then Montoya. Then behind them, you've got, I believe that's Marco Andretti and Jack Hawksworth.
Sweet-looking race car, that number 21 of Joseph Newgarden. There's Will Power behind him. Then it's Juan Montoya, then Simon Pagenaud. They'll climb on the binders, the right-hander off of Seaside Way to turn 10 and Nick Yeoman.
Joseph Newgarden's going to start 9th later today when we start this race. As the checkered flag is out to end this session, he'll race out of turn number 11. The Penske teammates, Power and Montoya, they'll stay out on the racetrack for one more lap.
We'll give you the top 5 when we come back from the Firestone broadcast booth. This is the Advanced Auto Parts IndyCar Radio Network.
The best drivers on earth aren't going to push the limits of man and machine riding on just any old piece of rubber, which is why Firestone is the tire of the Verizon IndyCar Series. So when it's time to celebrate the 100th running of the Indy 500, no one knows more about celebrating than the tire that has more Indy wins than anyone else. Because at Firestone, we don't just make tires. We make champions. Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone.
So Graham Rahal, P1, and Zach, again, you alluded to it, but expand upon it a bit. How much more confidence does that give you going into the race today? I mean, he's starting in the 17th starting position. That's a monumental hill to climb, but by the same token, he had some pretty good pace the first couple of practice sessions, and it all went away in qualifying. This has to help that team spirits mightily.
Yeah, and as Rob kind of noted before talking with them, that they just chose the wrong downforce for qualifying, and it kind of just shows how important downforce is around a place like this. He was sliding around a little too much for qualifying, wasn't able to move forward through the rounds. So starting, where he is, kind of in the back of the pack at 17th, yeah, that's going to be a little dejecting, a little frustrating, but, he had the pace in the earlier sessions. He's P1 in the warm-up, so he's got to have a lot of confidence going into this race. So they have to go a little off strategy to get up through the front, but once they get to the front, I think he has a good chance to win, go for a win here at Long Beach.
Turn 7, I believe, the runoff area that Scott Dixon found. He's going to be able to get back to pit road under his own power. So Rahal, Castro Neves, Montoya, Hinchcliffe, and Dixon, your top 5 in a rather uneventful final warm-up session, which is just the way they like it. We hope you'll join us later today. For the 42nd time, Open Wheel Racing will tackle the streets of Long Beach, California. Join us at 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. I'll be in the booth along with our driver analyst, Davey Hamilton. Jake Query, Nick Yeoman will be out on the course. Michael Young, Rob Howden, and yes, Zach Veach will be on pit road for today's race. Indianapolis studio master control operations by Chris Pollack. Our director of engineering, on-site engineer and producer is Rick Evans. The director of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network is Wally Levitt. Thanks to Nick Yeoman and Jake Query for their work on the course this morning. Thanks to Rob Howden for the excellent job, as always, on pit road. And our thanks to Jim McKellion for spending a few minutes with us on a very busy day. For Zach Veach, I am Mark Jane. So long for now from the streets of Long Beach, California.
This is the Verizon IndyCar Series on the Advanced Auto Parts IndyCar Radio Network.
A.J. Foyt down the main straightaway. The checkered flag is out. A.J.'s hand in the air. He is the winner. A.J. Foyt at Indianapolis has won his 4th 500-mile race. A.J. Foyt, our winner. The flag will fly now for Tom Sneva and then for Al Unser. We will be talking with all of these drivers in just a moment. Lou Palmer is in victory lane as A.J. Foyt takes now his victory lap around the 2.5 miles of Indianapolis. A record-breaking end to a record-breaking month. A.J. Foyt, the 4th win at Indianapolis. A month that saw the 200-mile-an-hour barrier broken, not just in the practice where it is unofficial, but in the qualifying by Tom Sneva, our second-place car at the moment. And then, too, the first woman to enter, to qualify, and to compete in a 500-mile race, Janet Guthrie of New York City. But for the moment, the The name is A.J. Foyt of Houston, Texas. The car is his, a Coyote. The engine is his, a Foyt V8. And happiness, fame, and fortune are his too. He is the winner of the 6th